Bagpipes. Hello, everyone. So I didn't film an intro to this video that you're about to see. So this is the intro. Carly's not in the video. She's not gonna be there.
I just stopped by to say hello.
We just got back from an adventure, this is Cursed Cars Part 2. If you haven't seen Part 1, you should go and watch that too. You don't have to watch Part 1 to understand Part 2. It's just a continuation. But I hope you enjoy, and we'll see you in the next video. 1964 Dodge 330, aka the Golden Eagle. In the town of Old Orchard Beach, Maine, the local police took delivery of a new squad car, a 1964 Dodge 330. Little did they know, this particular squad car had a grisly surprise in store for them. During its career, the car was driven by 3 different officers. The grisly part? All 3 died. Not in the car, but rather by going crazy, killing their families and then killing themselves. After the 3rd murder-suicide, the police quickly got rid of it, selling it to an old man who then sold it to its current owner, Wendy Allen. Wendy is quite the character, apparently. She also goes by Eelcat and the Sea Witch of Old Orchard Beach. She claims to collect and decorate nothing but haunted cars, which she takes to car shows and uses as inspiration for her writing. The Allen family was strangely unaffected by the car's curse, and they used the car as their daily driver for many years without incident. But the car had gained lots of enemies, mainly local religious groups who had heard about the 3 murder-suicides. They took a keen interest on vandalizing the car because they believed it would keep the curse away. Instead, though, it had the opposite effect. Everyone who touched it died under mysterious circumstances. A bunch were supposedly decapitated when they were struck head-on by an 18-wheeler, and the others were struck by lightning. Around 2007, a young teenager who was dared to touch the car went insane, murdered his whole family, and burned his house down. Incidents such as these would continue to happen throughout the 80s and 90s. Then around 2017, another religious group stole the car from Wendy's yard, chopped it up, and sold the pieces to various junkyards. But the story doesn't end there. Wendy was devastated and claimed she was targeted, not because of the car, but because of her own occult interests. With the help of some supporters, she managed to track down all the pieces and put the car back together. Nowadays, though, she keeps it tucked away and out of the public eye because she doesn't want any more religious groups targeting her. And I don't blame her. Being responsible for 32 people's deaths, it's no wonder the 64 Dodge is regarded as the evilest car in America. Archduke Franz Ferdinand's 1910 Graf and Stit Double Phaeton. Sunday, 28th June 1914, a day that will forever live in infamy. Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife, Sophie, were touring Sarajevo, the capital of the Austro-Hungarian province of Bosnia and Herzegovina, when they were attacked by a Serbian nationalist group called the Black Hand. One of the assassins was Nedeljko Kabrinović, who threw a grenade at the car, but it missed and detonated behind the car, badly injuring the occupants in the following car. Upon arriving at the governor's house, the Archduke was heard to say, "So you welcome your guests with bombs." After a short rest, the couple insisted on visiting the injured people at a local hospital. On the way to the hospital, the driver made a wrong turn, and as a result, they had to turn around. The turnaround was a comedy of errors. The driver was unfamiliar with the roads and how to operate the car. As a result, they found themselves stalled on a side street. Gavrilo Princip, another assassin hired by the Black Hand, happened to be sitting at a cafe across the street when it happened. He seized the opportunity and walked across the street, shooting the Archduke in the neck and his wife in the abdomen. They both died of their wounds shortly after. Kabrinović and Princip were tried and convicted for the murder and sentenced to 24 years of hard labor in the fortress of Theresienstadt in Bohemia. A month later, Hungary declared war on Serbia, and World War I began. While several nations were engaged in the bloodiest conflict of that time, the Grafenstadt seemed to declare its own personal war on the next 15 people who owned it. It's worth noting, however, that apparently there was a lot of controversy as to whether or not these events actually happened, and nobody has ever found solid documentary evidence. A problem that is compounded by the fact that paper records were not meticulously kept back then, and even if they did, they would have been lost or destroyed years ago. It's largely believed the curse story was made popular in 1959 when a famous radio broadcaster and ufologist named Frank Edwards wrote a book called Stranger Than Science. So just for entertainment purposes, the events are as follows. After the Archduke's assassination, the car was owned by a General Potoyrik who apparently went insane and later died in a mental institution. The car then went to an army captain who was killed in an accident after striking and killing 2 pedestrians. Then the car went to the governor of Yugoslavia and had 4 accidents in 4 months, the last accident resulting in the amputation of his right arm. The governor sold the car to a Dr. Srikis, who was killed when it overturned and crushed him. Another doctor owned it afterwards, but when his superstitious patients deserted him, he quickly sold it to a Swiss race car driver. During a race, the car threw him over a stone wall and killed him instantly. The next owner was a farmer. One day, the car stalled while on the way to a farmer's market. As it was being towed back, the car suddenly lurched to life and rammed the car towing it. Both the farmer and his friend were killed. These are just a few of the stories. 13 of the 15 owners apparently met with similar deaths and freak accidents. The car eventually made its way to Vienna, Austria, where it currently resides in the Museum of Military History. But the car has one last surprise in store. In the 2000s, a British visitor, Brian Presland, noted an interesting correlation. The license plate, which has always been the same numbers according to photographs, reads A111118, which could be interpreted as a calendar date 11/11/18, which is the day World War I ended. Has the car been carrying a premonition its whole life? That's for you to decide. The Vauxhall Astra Ghost of England. During the evening of December 11th, 2002, apparently the day after the Surrey Police press team's Christmas party, police began to receive calls about a pair of headlights that were seen veering off the road and going into the ditch on the A3 just shy of Guildford. When the officers showed up on scene, they saw no sign of an accident. However, a chance discovery buried deep in the underbrush revealed something completely unexpected. Police discovered a maroon Vauxhall Astra facing nose down and heavily covered in weeds. Outside the car, they found a heavily decomposed body. It was facing uphill, which made police believe that the driver died while trying to climb up the hill. Further analysis predicted the death to have been at least 5 months prior. Merry Christmas, Surrey Police Press Team. The body was eventually identified using dental records as 21-year-old Christopher Brian Chandler, who was wanted for robbery and was on the run from the Metropolitan Police since July 16th of that year. He was last seen drinking with friends in West London. Shortly after, his brother had reported him missing, but police had no idea where to look. Interestingly, Chandler's cell phone records showed a call to his brother that lasted less than a second, probably not even enough to connect. It's not known if the call was made before or after the incident. To this day, it's not clear what people saw that night, but paranormal experts believe that something, perhaps the spirit of Christopher Brian Chandler, was trying to call attention to the wreckage. That way, the body could be buried and rest in peace. On a random note, the fact that he was last seen drinking makes me wonder if alcohol was the cause of the crash. The Jumping Renault of South Africa. In 2004, the peaceful early morning atmosphere at the Roseboom Guest House in Cape Town, South Africa, was quite literally shattered by a loud crash in the parking lot. In full view of many witnesses, including police who were called by the car's owner, A Renault Megane was seen to start up all by itself. The engine revved a few times, and then suddenly jumped backwards and crashed into a hibiscus tree. According to the guest house's owner, Ian Scheidekat, the incident caused quite the stir. We were inundated with calls from all over. Some people thought it was a marketing ploy for the guest house. Many people discussed the phenomenon, and I even had to tell it on radio. In fact, when the news reached worldwide, an exorcist from America offered to perform an exorcism on the car. Soon after the accident, though, Renault came out with a statement explaining what happened. A rusty cable that leads to the battery supply relay box caused the car to short circuit and make the starter motor go off. The car then jumped backwards because it had a manual transmission. A standard procedure with manual cars is to put the car in gear when parking it. Manual transmissions don't have a parking gear, so putting the car in gear, which in this case was reverse, is an added safety measure in case the parking brake fails. As for the car revving by itself, this could be one of many things. The engine is misfiring due to bad spark plugs, the car's computer getting confused by a bad sensor, or not enough antifreeze in the engine, or even something as simple as vacuum leak, or a dirty throttle body getting stuck. These are just a few of the possible causes. Also, being in a country like South Africa, the quality and frequency of maintenance on cars is probably not the greatest. Despite the various mechanical explanations, some people aren't convinced, and just like all the other cars on the list, there's a fair amount of controversy surrounding it. I think if the car was inhabited by a spirit, it was a benevolent prankster spirit, who maybe saw a few jump scare videos on YouTube. One thing is for certain, Ian Scheidekat was thankful for the explanation. But as soon as something jumps again, I'll let you know immediately, he joked. I have a joke of my own. I think that car certainly put the boom in Rose Boom.